Thank you Zyrock Fowen for subscribing. Enjoy your seat on the couch for this video. This is Maxie's Island, a Pokemon escape room fan game. You heard me right, this Pokemon game is an escape room. Unlike a traditional Pokemon game where you're catching and training lots of Pokemon to defeat strong opponents, this game is more focused on solving puzzles through the use of obscure game knowledge and battle mechanics. I've heard of other ROM hacks like this, but I've never tried one. This game was recently released and it caught my attention, so I thought I'd give it a shot. The game begins with a cutscene where you're surfing along the open ocean, and then you get caught up in these currents that block you from leaving the area. The only thing nearby is this strange island. Here are some points of interest. This fisherman who gives you an old rod, this Pokeball that contains a big nugget, and this NPC called the Game Master. He'll give you hints about the current puzzle you're attempting to solve. My goal was to use as few hints as possible, but since this is my first ever escape room hack, I didn't feel too bad using them when I felt really stuck. I looked through my bag, which was completely empty. Then I checked out my Pokemon. I had a Sableye and a Mantike, both at level 10. Sableye has the ability Prankster, which means if it uses a status move, like Confuse Ray or Leer, it will always go first. It knows the moves Scratch, Fling, Protect, and Disable, and it's holding a life orb, which makes the Pokemon hit harder, but takes damage when it attacks. Mantike has the ability Swift Swim, which raises its speed in the rain, and knows a handful of generic attacking moves. By walking around the island, I found the only two paths forward were blocked by this Slowking and Seismitoad that will battle you if you walk in their line of sight. It's clear you need to defeat one or both of them to move forward. Neither of my Pokemon are that impressive, especially against these higher leveled, fully evolved opponents, but that's kind of the point. This game is about finding solutions to seemingly impossible problems. Seismitoad just knocks out both of my Pokemon in one hit, and I didn't really think I had everything I needed to defeat it just yet, so I decided to focus on Slowking. The issue is, Slowking can pretty easily take out my team no matter what I do. After battling it a few times, I noticed something strange though. If I send Sableye out first, it will always use the move Embargo right away. This move blocks me from using any items in battle, which I thought was weird because I didn't have any items to use. This strange coincidence gave me an idea. What if Embargo means I can't use the move Fling, a move that causes the user to throw its held item at the opponent? So I put my theory to the test. Slowking uses Embargo, I use Fling, and it fails, confirming my suspicions. Fling is definitely how I win this battle, but how do I use it before Slowking uses Embargo since it's faster than Sableye? Well, that's where Prankster comes into play. If I start the battle by using Protect, which always goes first no matter what, it causes Embargo to miss. Then I use Disable to stop Slowking's Embargo from working. Because Disable is a status move, Prankster takes effect, making Sableye go first this turn. Then I survive a hit from Surf and solve this first puzzle by using Fling to take out Huh? Why didn't that work? Oh, don't tell me there's more to this. Okay, so I floundered around with this for a long time. I knew this was the right way to do this, but I was missing some small part. Eventually, I gave up and got my first hint, which told me to check out how Fling works. So I went to Sableye's moves and read the description for Fling. The effectiveness varies with the held item, so what if the Big Nugget does a lot of damage? Of course, the Big Nugget. I had picked it up right at the start of my playthrough, and after exploring the island, reading the rules, and trying out these battles, I just completely forgot I had it. I gave it to Sableye to hold, used the Protect Disable strategy, and then, with my first major roadblock out of the way, I was free to explore a new section of the island. There's this pool of water I can find Remoraid in, and a Celebi that will teach my Pokemon new moves. After learning some of these new moves, I thought I'd be ready to defeat Seismitoad, but I just couldn't find anything that really seemed to work. I tried disabling its moves the same way I did with Slowking, but it has multiple options that can one-hit KO me. I also tried teaching both of my Pokemon moves that cause confusion. With Sableye's Prankster ability, Confuse Ray will go first every time, but this hack has a special code in it where the confused status always goes away immediately, so that didn't really work either. After about half an hour or more of making zero progress, I caved and used a second hint. And I'm glad I did because it pointed me in a direction I was nowhere close to even considering. I needed to surf down to the currents and find a hidden path in them that would lead me to a new part of the island. No way I was gonna think to do that. On that side of the island was a Pokeball, leading me to realize I was supposed to catch a Remoraid. So I did. I thought catching this Remoraid would be the solution to this puzzle, but it didn't seem to really change anything for me. It has an okay ability ability and pretty normal looking moveset, but nothing really useful for Seismitoad. It also can't learn any new moves from Celebi, so I wasn't really sure what it was for. I felt like I had fully explored everything I could at this point. Certainly, I must now have everything I need to take down Seismitoad, except I still couldn't quite figure out what to do. Remoraid seemed pretty useless. I thought maybe Helping Hand was what I needed, but since this isn't a double battle, it doesn't do anything. Once again, I was stuck, so I got another hint. Mantike is not a Pokemon I know much about. It's not one I've ever used in a playthrough, so this hint really didn't mean anything to me. Clearly Mantike was part of the solution, but it didn't even cross my mind that I should try to evolve it, especially since it has a very unique method for evolving that I wasn't aware of. Mantike only evolves when it is leveled up while you have a Remoraid in your party. I mean, come on, that's such a specific set of circumstances, but again, knowing small details and obscure game mechanics is the entire point of this game, so that's on me. After evolving, I checked in with Celebi to see if my new Mantine could learn any new moves, and oh boy, you bet it can. The most exciting new option is Bullet Seed, since it's 4 times effective against Seismitoad. I rework Mantine's moveset and go into my most confident attempt yet. In this hack, Bullet Seed will always only hit 3 times, which even with the Life Orb doesn't do enough damage to Seismitoad. I thought I was about to be stuck again, but I managed to figure out the solution on the next attempt. By starting with Sableye, I can use Leer, and Prankster will make it go first. It gets knocked out, but since Seismitoad's defense is lowered, and Mantine is holding the Life Orb, it's just enough to finally win this battle. Traveling deeper into the island, I found this Pokeball and this cave. Once I walked in, I was immediately terrified at the thought of having to battle this Regirock, but luckily all it does is take my Sableye and give me a Cubone. I also talked to the fisherman again, who asks if I'll give him my Remoraid so he can eat it for dinner. There's absolutely no way I'll let him eat this Pokemon though. Oh, he'll give me a Porygon? Oh, well, that seems like a fair trade. Celebi goes to heaven, and then I go back into the cave. This Zubat spots me, and I thought I was about to get into another battle, but it just stops and stares at me after it reaches me. This Zubat is one of the main mechanics of this part of the hack. You need to make your way through these boulder puzzles while trying not to get seen by Kadabra, or else it'll teleport you away and reset the boulders. Also, you can only be seen by Zubat in the correct spots, or it'll block your path and make it impossible to get the boulders into the right places. The first room wasn't really that bad. I was able to solve it after a couple of minutes, but the second room was crazy. I was so close to completing it so many times, but I never could figure out the last little bit. Eventually, I solved it and I was able to move on. I actually went back into the cave to explore the path this Zubat previously blocked off, and I found a wall of Braille that becomes this phrase when deciphered. I also picked up a Gyarados. After leaving the cave, I got the TM for Rock Climb. I taught it to Cubone and explored the new areas of the island I now had access to. I caught a Farfetch'd and talked to Maxie, who told me some convoluted story about his rival Archie being a hero of some distant land. I don't know, he was kind of rambling. Then I saw this sweet old lady and I figured I'd strike up a friendly conversation with her. Hello, Dilly. Have you seen that stupid Rhydon next to me? Oh my... I don't think I'll ever recover from that. Finally, I made it to the next battle, which is a double battle with this sailor. He has a Cramorant and a Delmise that has the ability Wonder Guard. A Pokemon with Wonder Guard can only be hit by moves that are super effective. That means I can only hit this Delmise with Fire, Flying, Ghost, or Dark type moves. I'll spare you the many failed attempts at trying to figure this fight out and just jump ahead to the solution. First, you have to use Cut with Farfetch'd to chop away this tall grass until you find a marked spot on the ground. On this spot is a hidden item, Ability Capsule, which will change the ability of a Pokemon. In this case, I needed to change Porygon's ability from Download to Trace. This ability will copy the ability of an opposing Pokemon in battle. Doing this lets me copy Delmise's Wonder Guard onto my Porygon. Then I had to figure out Porygon's incredibly odd moveset and how it all works. I'm going to try my best to explain this as simply as possible. So, this Porygon knows Conversion, Conversion 2, Rest, and Revelation Dance. Conversion changes Porygon's type to match the typing of the move in its first move slot. For example, if Rest is the first move on the list, Porygon will change from Normal type to Psychic type if it uses Conversion, because Rest is a Psychic move. Conversion 2 changes Porygon to a typing that resists the typing of the last move it was hit with. So, if Porygon gets attacked with a Ghost type move, then uses Conversion 2, it's now a Dark type, because Dark resists Ghost. Rest puts Porygon to sleep, but it fully heals itself. And finally, Revelation Dance is a move that matches the typing of the Pokemon. If Porygon is a normal type, Revelation Dance is also a normal type. If Porygon is a dark type, Revelation Dance is a dark type move. So with all of that in mind, here's how this crazy, convoluted battle has to play out. Porygon's Trace ability copies Delmise's Wonder Guard, so it can only be hit with super effective moves. On turn 1, I use Conversion, making sure that Rest is in its first move slot, so Porygon is now a Psychic type. Since Porygon is a Psychic type now, Delmise will always attack with Astonish, a Ghost type move that is super effective against Psychic types. On turn 2, I use Conversion 2, and since the last move that hit Porygon was a Ghost type, it's now a Dark type. While all of that was going on, I was also waiting to send Farfetch'd out as the last of my available Pokemon, because it knows the move Helping Hand. Finally, after all that setup, Farfetch'd uses Helping Hand, and Porygon attacks Delmise with Revelation Dance, which is a Ghost type move now. And with the assistance from Farfetch'd and the Life Orb Porygon is holding, Delmise gets knocked out. But wait, the battle still isn't over, because as you can see, there's a whole other Pokemon I have to deal with. Farfetch'd gets knocked out and Porygon has to use Rest, or else it'll get knocked out by the Life Orb. Once it wakes up, it just uses Revelation Dance a few times and the battle is over. Jeez. Everything about this battle was insanely specific and nuanced. This was definitely a hardcore test of game knowledge. And I have to say I'm pretty proud of myself because I didn't use any hints to figure it out. Anyway, remember that Braille I translated earlier? It made the phrase, "One who searches will find." This is why there is a search function. Again, I'll save you the details, but basically this clue leads to the Pokédex search function, which gives you instructions about how to talk to this Rhyhorn at the top of the mountain. By following those instructions, it breaks this rock for you. I find the TM for Dive and teach it to Mantine. Then I head to the open sea and dive beneath the water. Exploring the area leads me to this hidden entrance where I find a Mega Ring and a Team Aqua Grunt that will give me a Gyarados and a Weezing in exchange for my Farfetch'd, Porygon, and Cubone. I go back underwater and I am challenged by the final boss of this ROM hack, Archie. He has an Overqwil and a Kyogre, two Pokemon my current team can't really do much to. But at first glance, this doesn't seem too bad. I gave it a few attempts to learn what moves the Pokemon have and how the AI reacts to certain situations. Kyogre is basically just a powerhouse. It's got great stats because it's a legendary, and it has a moveset that counters my team perfectly. Overqwil is basically only there to set up toxic spikes and lower your team's attack stats with its ability Intimidate. It also knows Dive and is holding Black Sludge, which heals it every turn. So it's essentially meant to poison your team and then stall until you faint. Knowing what I was up against, let's look at the team I had to work with. Gyarados has the moves Strength, Waterfall, and Roar. It has the ability Maxie, which raises its attack stat when it knocks out a Pokemon, and it can Mega Evolve. When Gyarados Mega Evolves, its typing changes to Water Dark type, and it gets a new ability, Mold Breaker, which ignores opponent Pokemon abilities. Weezing knows the moves Sludge, Flamethrower, and Self-Destruct, and has the ability Levitate. And I still have Mantine from early on in the game, but since it's so underleveled for this fight, I can't see it being super useful. So yeah, I'll be honest, I had no idea what to do. Kyogre just knocks out my Gyarados in one hit if I don't Mega Evolve it right away, and the only thing that seems to work is slowly chipping away at their health, but I don't ever come close to knocking them out. After a while, I decided to get a hint. It talks about getting rid of toxic spikes with Weezing, but I have no idea how. Besides, the toxic spikes didn't really seem to be the issue, so I just kept trying over and over again, hardly making any progress until finally I did the one thing I promised myself I wouldn't do during this playthrough. I looked up the answer. But here's the kicker, from what I could find, nobody out there knows the answer to this puzzle. Everyone I saw that managed to win this fight did it by brute forcing it, so I decided to do the same. I started with Gyarados and Mantine. This way, Weezing isn't affected by Overqwil's Intimidate. I swap in Weezing and Mega Evolve Gyarados. Then I go all in attacking Overqwil with Waterfall and Sludge. I found that if Kyogre is still in the battle, Overqwil will only use Toxic Spikes. But if Kyogre gets knocked out, it'll stall you by using Dive every turn. so Overquill needs to be knocked out first. Eventually, it is knocked out. Kyogre then immediately uses Roar to swap in Mantine, which is actually great for me because this next move is the key to winning this fight. Since Weezing didn't get intimidated at the start of the fight, and it's holding a Life Orb, it can use a power-boosted self-destruct to knock Kyogre down to quarter health. Now, it's all up to Mega Gyarados. It does get poisoned as soon as it comes out because of the toxic spikes, but since it's around half health and it's pretty bulky, I'm hoping it's just enough to win. I use Waterfall, which is powered up by the rain. Kyogre almost knocks me out with Thunderbolt, but I barely survive. Then, the poison takes me down to just a few health points left. Since the rain stopped, I wasn't sure if I should use Waterfall or Strength. The wrong choice could mean having to start all over. I took a few moments to consider both options until I finally decided on Waterfall. Hopefully, it's enough. With barely any health to spare, I managed to take out Archie. I rose back to the surface on the other side of the currents that were imprisoning me on this island and made it back to freedom on the open sea. Maxie's island has been defeated. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this, consider liking the video and subscribing. If you do subscribe, you might see yourself on the couch in the next video. Tell me in the comments if there are any other good Pokemon ROM hacks or Pokemon challenge runs you'd like to see me play.